Paul's story is about the treatment his 12-month-old grandson received in the emergency department at Blackpool Victoria Hospital following an admission there late one evening recently.
My grandson was brought into the hospital by the paramedics. The ambulance brought him in, and myself and my wife followed the ambulance up. His grandson had actually stopped breathing, and it was very, very frightening. And we got to my daughter's house just after the fast action response paramedic arrived, and they were treating him. He was quite conscious, and he was actually breathing again. But they were doing all the different tests, and I'd just like to say that they were brilliant. The paramedic lady in the car and then the two in the ambulance were fantastic. So he was took up to hospital in the ambulance, and we followed in the car. After that, we were put into a cubicle, and that basically went downhill from then on in. We weren't told anything, we weren't spoken to, there was no triage, nothing. We were just left in this cubicle, and everything was going on around us. There were people rushing in, people rushing out. It was very busy. There were drunks in the next bed to us. It was an awful experience. My daughter was getting more and more upset, as was my wife. My grandson was going bright red in the face, crying his eyes out because he didn't know what was going on. And it was just a terrible experience. There was nothing at all. Nobody came to us until the doctor saw us right at the very end. I went and asked a couple of times what was going on, and we were just told we don't know. There were people seen in cubicles either side of us, and it just looked like people were coming in and going out, and we were just still sat there. I mean, the paramedics came back with another patient at the time when we were still waiting, and they couldn't believe that we were still waiting. The doctors, I'm sure, I'm not saying that, to me it looked like they weren't doing anything now. That's just my impression, because they were all sat on computers most of the time. Now, I'm sure they're updating patients' records or whatever they do, and I'm sure if we'd have been brought in on a stretcher, completely, conscious, then we'd have been treated. But it seemed to be the people in the cubicles, especially that, my grandson was just forgotten about. So there was just nothing, no communication. They need to start speaking to patients. Even if we're going to be there 4 hours, come and tell us. Come and say, oh, you're next in line, and if somebody comes in with a more urgent case, then so be it. But just talk to us, tell us. If they'd have took him to another room, completely out of the way, and come and said, look, we'll be with you as soon as we can, and then come in and not even give us a time, but said, look, we'll be with you as soon as you can, and then keep coming back. Are you all right? Is everything? I don't know. Perhaps made my daughter a cup of tea, asked if he wants a bottle, anything, anything, just to make it a little bit better than it was. One particular patient who I felt really, really sorry for, was unconscious, and there was two nurses just taking the mick out of him. They were just going up and laughing between themselves, talking between themselves, discussing what they'd done on a previous night out. There was nobody in charge. It was just like a complete free-for-all. There was no authority anywhere. The thing is, you're frightened to complain. That's the problem, because you don't know how it's going to affect your treatment. But it certainly opened my eyes when I went in. They need somebody in charge. They need somebody to run it as a ward. And it didn't seem to be anybody there at all doing that. And we were given no advice. They just checked him out and said, go home, and if it happens again, see your GP. We were just left with nothing, really. None the wiser. Didn't know why it happened, didn't know what had happened, and obviously everybody was scared stiff, thinking it was going to happen again. So no, there was no information at all. And it was certainly not the place for a 12-month-old child.